Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, we've only just recovered from the cyber attack on the HSE earlier this summer, but what if hackers could target the technology in smart buildings? Well, they can, and the results can be catastrophic. However, my next guest, Damien Browne from Standard Access, has developed patented technology to minimise this risk. Damien, we'll be profiling your company, Standard Access. But first, I'd like to hear about your career journey prior to starting the business.
Yeah, I spent most of my life working in construction and in real estate. Most of my career as a commercial property owner investor. That's what I did for about 20 years or so before I founded Standard Access.
And it was problems that you experienced in your previous roles that provided a lightbulb moment for Standard Access.
That's right, Carl, yeah. As you know, the recession came in 2008 and it was devastating for the property industry. And I was trying to figure out a way for a few years how I could use technology to eliminate the problems of keys and key holding and rent and giving access to people remotely and trying to do that safely was a big problem. So, you know, everything I was doing was being duplicated across the different sites around Ireland and the UK. And I was trying to think of a way how I could use technology to reduce inefficiencies and losing money, really.
So your initial focus for Standard Access was around the area of access control. So how did it assist smart buildings in that respect?
First day in 2014, I wanted a hardware and software solution to manage access and also to collect rent and tie the two together. So if someone paid rent, they get access. If they didn't pay rent, they wouldn't get access. And I also wanted the hardware to be able to bill people for telephone lines and broadband and heating and lighting and that sort of thing. And at the time, the college told me that a lot of the technology wasn't available at the time, and I didn't have the resource either to do a project as big as that. So we just concentrated on access control and monetizing access control using mobile phones.
So what are the security threats that are facing smart buildings at present?
Well, everybody's heard, I suppose, at this stage of the Internet of Things and IoT. And basically what that means is that you're connecting a device that would normally be connected to the Internet. So that could be lights, it could be cameras, it could be doors, it could be air conditioning, it could be the flow of water through a pipe and monitoring how fast the water is going through in case there was a leak or how slow it was going through. These are all different data feeds now that people can collect on buildings to see the performance of buildings. And, you know, it's a great technology to help people reduce emissions and save on power and consumption. But, you know, all these products come onto the market in the last couple of years, but many of the vendors and manufacturers of these devices have never thought about security. And when you add a device or a sensor onto a network in a building, you've just created another security vulnerability in your system. You know, the way sometimes hackers can use mobile phones and they can use computers to get access into networks of companies. Like, say, if you're a bank, for example, security would be a big issue, or a health provider. And now the hackers can use these sensors, tiny little sensors. They can use them now to hack into systems. So from the very start, we were aware of security issues, and I said to the college first day, I said the most important thing you can do for me, I said, is ensure the safety of people going through doors, that I know who went through the door at any one time. But if I know that, I said, that means my tenants and the people who are supposed to go into the building are safe. But I said, equally as important, I said, the security of the data and the security of data being transmitted around buildings. So we built the company on those two core values.
So what are the core functionalities of your digital spine operating system?
The digital spine basically is like it's like a black box for a building. The digital spine, the black box we're building, is an interoperable piece of hardware, a platform for platforms. At the moment, in a lot of big buildings, in airports, in universities, in big office buildings, they could have 6 or 7 different technologies in use at the same time. They could have one for heating, ventilation, air conditioning. They could have one for the building management systems. They could have one for CCTV. They could have one for access control. They could have, like I said, they could have tenant apps and landlord apps. And all these technologies use different protocols, use different data sets. And they operate in silos. They don't talk to each other. And in those big buildings, you could have 2 or 3 or 4 members of staff monitoring these data sets, these dashboards all day long, and taking actions based on the data that they receive. And so what the digital spine is going to do, Carl, is that it's going to convert the most commonly used protocols and data into one unified protocol data. So we're building, we're standardizing data in buildings for the industry. And it's about a 2-year project. We're about 6 months into it. We're working with the IEEE as well, that's the Institute of Engineers around the world, to help us standardize data format, so that landlords and people who operate buildings and university campuses and things like that, so that they can buy one piece of technology from us, and then it can plug into the old systems that they use, or if they want to add new systems like IoT technology or whatever it may be, they can plug it into this. So we're saying, look, here's the black box to operate your building, and you can buy from any other vendor you want, using, if they're selling you access control or security or CCTV or tenant apps, we don't mind. You can plug it into the system, and we'll give you all the data back in one dashboard.
And I do believe the COVID-19 pandemic actually provided you with an opportunity.
Well, it did, I suppose, in that, one door closed, another one opens, and that we've been selling the access control we were for 5 years in research and development, and we finally launched into the UK market in late 2019, early 2020, and then COVID happened, and the market collapsed overnight because all the buildings were shut down. And a lot of the big real estate companies had to reassess their budgets for the next year, 2 years, because they didn't know when the tenants were coming back, if they were coming back. And budgets were slashed, and our product being a CapEx, I suppose, high-priced technology because of the security built into it and all that, it became something they wanted, but they weren't sure if they wanted to pay for it. So we were trying to figure out a way, is there any other technology within our expertise, the knowledge that we built up over the last couple of years, can we do something else right now to give something to the real estate owners that they can use that's not going to cost them an arm and a leg? They could buy off us on an OPEX model, a monthly fee. So that's where the digital spine came from, to build a secure piece of hardware that will connect to the owner's existing technology in the building. And if they want to add other technology afterwards, they can. So, we're selling a piece of technology that will be the engine for your building. But we can afford to give it to the buyer on an OPEX model and not have to pay any money up front.
So how does that revenue model work then for the business?
So it'll be a 5-year minimum contract, monthly or quarterly, paid in advance, based on based on the square footage of the building.
And who would you define as your target market, both here in Ireland and internationally?
Any company that would have a large real estate portfolio. So that could be a real estate development company, or it could be a company that owns airports, or it could be a university campus, or it could be a large corporation, we'll say like Pfizer, for example, who would have factories all over the world, would have a massive property portfolio, and would be using different technologies in each building and in each country, and would want to unify everything across the board.
And what level of traction are you getting within that market?
We're getting a lot of interest. Like the digital spine is in development at the moment, Carl. We're getting a lot of interest from companies who own a lot of real estate, because the problems they have is that, like I described, for if they have a HQ in Dublin for the European market, they could have, like I said, they could have 6 or 7 different types of technologies in use in the building, and then they might have 4 or 5 sub offices around Europe. And in each of those sub-offices, they'll be using different types of technology again. And back in America, they'll be using different types of technology, and different types of technology in China. So the fact that we're developing something that will be one unified system that they can plug in, they've already spent a lot of money on technology in each of those buildings, but something that they can plug into, so it doesn't make the stuff they've already spent money on redundant, is very attractive to them.
You had secured patents in the US for this technology. How arduous a process did you find that?
It was one of the toughest battles I've ever fought, I'd say. We initially went to the US because the market is enormous. We had a small budget to start for IP, for intellectual property, for patent applications. And we were advised to do it in America because the European Union can be very, very slow to give patents on software and hardware. So we went to the US thinking it would be a much faster process. But it ended up taking 5 years, which came up against a patent examiner who was a tough guy to deal with, and we actually thought late last year that we weren't going to get it, But I got a phone call in October from our patent attorney in New York to say that it was granted. So it was a nice surprise to get in after such a bad year.
Of course, there's lots of exciting developments in the area of artificial intelligence. Will any of those developments assist you and help you maybe to integrate it with your own technology in the future?
Yeah, we use machine learning algorithms and we apply artificial intelligence as well in different parts of our products. But with the digital spine especially, the ability to use artificial intelligence with a massive amounts of data is, without artificial intelligence, and at the stage it's at now, you couldn't do that a couple of years ago. But now you can, and you can get to this. You could actually get to the stage, Carl, if the buyer was interested and wanted to really go at it and see what they can do with the data and how much value the data can bring them. You could get to the stage where the buildings could actually get to the stage where they work autonomously.
Which would be fascinating, but of course it comes with its own risks as well. And finally, Damien, what are your goals for Standard Access over the next 3 to 5 years?
We'd like to become the number one physical data company in the world.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Damien Browne from Standard Access. And I wish Damien every success with rolling out this important preventive technology.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast